Short-term rentals is one of the biggest issues right now in the city of Charleston. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I speak exclusively with Denise Holtz, the founder of the South Carolina Vacation Rental Managers Association. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. And listen to this interview later on iHeartRadio. Denise Holtz.
Hello.
It's so good to see you again.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Well, anytime. I know the last time I interviewed you was probably a year ago for Quintin's Close-Ups. And obviously you were the founder and president of the South Carolina Vacation Realtor Managers Association.
VRMA, Vacation Rental Managers Association. Yes.
Define that these days, especially with you, Denise Holtz.
Sure. So VRMA is actually a national organization, Vacation Rental Managers Association of America. And it's a opportunity for vacation rental managers to get together, share best practices. The association also educates vacation rental managers. So someone that would manage a vacation rental, Folly Beach, Isle of Palms, downtown Charleston, that's really what it's for, to help us grow and protect our property owners, protect our guests, and follow the rules.
Protect the guests and follow the rules. Obviously, there's a big issue right now about short-term rentals here in the city of Charleston.
Yes.
Where are you guys in this discussion?
So I'd like to think we've been at the forefront in terms of the South Carolina, crew, if you will, really more specifically here in Charleston. We've been at this for about 4 years now, and our goal is to advocate for property owner rights as a realtor. That's my duty. And I feel like with some of the restrictions that the city has put in place on the new version of the ordinances, it could infringe on some property owner rights. So we're still looking at what's happening, and we would love to continue to push forward for some more change.
I went back and looked at some of the questions I had for you from the last time, and I want to use it this time. I want to do a little recycling.
Sure.
And mix it up a little bit.
All right.
Let me ask you the first question. Why is it important for Charleston to allow short-term rentals across this city?
Are we not the #1 destination in the world? How many years in a row have we been touted as the #1 destination? On the flip side of that, our own residents, particularly people here on the peninsula, are tired of the hotels. So, and I don't have a dog in that fight, if you will. I believe that allowing short-term rentals, specifically on the peninsula, will ease some of that burden in terms of the things that people talk about, traffic, noise. We can't keep the people out. We can't keep the vacationers from coming here. We're so blessed to live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. People want to come and experience that with us. So by allowing short-term rentals to ease some of the pain and the congestion, I think would help some of the issues that most of the people here on the peninsula talk about. In terms of the rental ordinance off the peninsula, it's still quite restrictive. I mean, there's a lot of hurdles that people have to go through before they can even, qualify. So, and then it's still somewhat subjective, I believe.
What are those hurdles as we sit here right now?
So there's 3 zones within the city to get an ordinance. There's one in the Old and Historic District, which is really some of B Street south, south of Broad. And then there's everything in the Upper Peninsula. And then there's, if you're incorporated into the city, West Ashley, Johns Island, James Island. Even getting those permits can be difficult. I believe if you're in the Old and Historic District, you must qualify on the National Historic Registry, which is very difficult. They don't just hand those out. I believe the city made it nearly impossible for people to get it. So there's still some issues with that we would love to be able to help the city work through. We're here to help. We're not trying to mandate or dictate. We definitely think that there's lack of education in terms of what short-term rentals are. They're not party houses. There are bad players in the game. There have been. And there always will be, unfortunately. I think that's with any industry that you have. We just feel like it needs to be more fair. And at the end of the day, we don't believe that any government should tell us what we can do with our homes. I also believe the lack of education is in terms of commercial use. The majority of people that are making the rules and making the laws believe that renting your house out short-term is a commercial use. It's not a commercial use. We talked about this last time. It's families using homes as homes to travel. I believe people confuse commercial use with business use, because you have to get a business license, because you have to pay accommodations taxes. They think that that is a commercial entity. It's not. It's still families using homes as homes, instead of using a hotel. So that's part of my mission, is to help spread that education piece of it.
What else do you want to educate people about when it comes to short-term rentals?
It's probably happening in your own neighborhood and you don't even know it. People that do it right, i.e. property managers or homeowners that do it right, there's no parking issues, there's no trash issues, there's no noise issues. We already have ordinances in place for those things.
Sure.
On top of that, if you have an HOA, a homeowners association, you probably have more strict guidelines. So I believe it's probably happening more than people know, and most homeowners are going to continue doing it, and they probably still are. I know that the city has ordered more enforcement or hired more enforcement officers. I'm not sure of where all that is. I do know that they're starting to issue more fines. Yet at the end of the day, I believe people are going to continue to do it. We don't encourage that, yet I also believe if they would loosen up the regulations a little bit, it'd be a lot easier to monitor. By them being the city, making it so strict and so difficult, people that can't meet it because of the arbitrary regulations they're requiring, people are going to do it anyway. Like being on the National Historic Register, that's really tough for a lot of people here. I'm just talking on the peninsula. So we still have some challenges as a city to make sure that it's done right and that it's legislated properly, and that not only property owners are protected, but our guests are protected and our neighborhoods are protected. We understand that.
You talk about the city a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If you were a part of the city as far as the government, how would you define illegal short-term rentals right now?
Oh, that's a tricky question. As it stands on the law, illegal means you don't have a permit. It's the issue with the permitting process that's the problem. In the city, in the short-term rental overlay, you have to be zoned commercial. That's where the problem lies. This is not a commercial practice. This is a residential practice. This is someone using a home as a home. You can compare it to a hotel or a B&B where you have different traveling groups sharing common space. That's not the case in a short-term rental. It's a group of people that are related, if you will, traveling together, where at a hotel or a B&B, it is a commercial use. It's lots of different people coming in and out, coming and going, and no one really is monitoring those people. Whereas in one home in a vacation rental, you know who's there, you know their names, you have their ID verified from the platform that you book through, you have done your own due diligence, if you will, so it's a little bit different, it's a lot different scenario.
Let me ask you this too. What part of the city's new regulations that you all agree with?
Well, the fact that they have regulation is good. We're very pleased that they even addressed it. There was no regulation for the James Island, the Johns Island, and the West Ashley. Now that the county, for those of us that aren't incorporated into the city, have regulations that we have to follow as well. So I'm very pleased that the city finally recognized that there is an issue with the non-regulation of it. And I understand as a city planner, someone in charge of the safety and livability, we have to know what's going on. I understand that. I just don't think they can mandate, I don't think that they can mandate whether or not it happens at all. I think they need to allow it to happen because it is happening. If they make the rules a little more common sense, more people will comply and they won't have to hire extra officers to enforce who's doing it, quote unquote, illegally.
You talk about people. Where is the public, and particularly a poll on these new city-wide regulations?
We haven't done a poll recently. Thank you for reminding me, we're going to do one. I believe the majority of people don't care as long as it doesn't disrupt their daily life. And I believe if people understood what it meant to rent a house from HomeAway or VRBO or Airbnb, you understand the steps you have to go through to even get approved as a traveler to rent a house. I was part of my own neighborhood. We're in the county. There's only a few houses in our neighborhood that are in the city. And one of my neighbors, I helped her go through the licensing process of getting her license in the county. And we even offered to have a neighborhood meeting to those that were against what we were doing. And just the fact that we aren't even given the opportunity to educate people about what this is and help them understand. Their whole point was, we don't want strangers in our neighborhood. I get that. Yet people that come to stay in vacation rentals aren't strangers. We've vetted them. We being the property manager or the homeowner. The property listing platform has vetted them as well. You have to show proof of ID before you can even become an approved traveler. So, I mean, if we're gonna have to do that, if we're gonna have to vet every single stranger that comes in our neighborhood, then we're not gonna allow the plumbers to come in unless we know who they are. We're not gonna allow babysitters to come in. We're not gonna allow the Paisano's pizza delivery guy to come in. I mean, everybody can go out of control with this, and we don't wanna do that. We wanna keep it even and fair for everybody. And by the city, or the county for that matter, telling people they can't do it is a property owner rights infringement as far as I'm concerned. There needs to be legislation, there needs to be laws for all of us to follow, and all of us need to have the opportunity to do this if we wish. I said this last time, it's tough. It is not a glamorous business to be in. It's a way for people to supplement income. It's a way for people to meet retirement goals. It's a way for people to buy a property and use it to then gift it to a child if that's what they want to do. Or there's lots of different reasons why people do it. Some people do it just because they love it. They love meeting guests and visitors.
You talk about legislation. Have you been up to Columbia yet?
I was there yesterday.
My favorite city, love downtown. Who have you talked to thus far?
So there is a bill in the Labor and Commerce Industry Committee right now.
Right.
It started in Ways and Means. It's a preemptive bill. The bill is written to preempt local municipalities from banning whole house rentals. That's in essence what the City of Charleston has done. They are not allowing 6% properties to be rented as short-term rentals. They're not allowing whole house rentals. You can live in your home, you can have a property manager live in your home, you can rent out rooms in your home, but you're not allowed to, like if I bought a house south of Broad, I'm not allowed to rent it for less than 28 days at a time. So the preemptive bill mandates that local municipalities can't ban the practice of short-term rentals. The issue with local lawmakers and preemptive bills, they don't like the state telling them what to do locally. I understand that. Yeah, I think if our local lawmakers understood by passing this preemptive bill would help their constituents. It's a benefit to their constituents not to let the cities and the counties tell them what to do. This has been 2 years in the making. It's finally out there. Don't know if we're going to get anywhere this year, but we are definitely pursuing it, and we're talking to the right people. So we're not done yet. We're nowhere near being done. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that people don't know about. Not anything sneaky, but I mean, people in our association, last year when the city passed the ordinance, and it was a lot more restrictive than we would have hoped. A lot of wins got taken out of people's cells. People are having to sell their property. They're having to change the way they live because they weren't able to do it legally, if you will. People don't want the fight. People don't want to get the business card of a local enforcement officer stuck on their door as a threat. People don't want to get the citations. People want to be able to do this fairly, and they want to pay taxes. They want to pay the 6% tax rate. They want to pay the accommodations taxes.
And you talk about that. Apparently from Channel 2, more than 1,000 short-term rentals have been removed from online. 35 property owners have been tried in livability court, and 48 cases are pending. Can you tell me from what period to what period?
Probably from when the ordinance passed last summer to now. It was, before the ordinance passed, I believe the city already started ramping up, hiring enforcement officers. So they've been out. I mean, we get people that it's almost an intimidation thing for people to come home and see an enforcement officer's business card stuck on the little slot in their door. And I understand what the city's doing. The enforcement officers are doing their job. They've been hired to do a job to find people who are doing it illegally, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Okay, during this entire fight, who's losing money, who's gaining money?
The city's losing money. The city is losing money in terms of accommodations taxes. This is a $1 billion industry in South Carolina. Charleston County and the City of Charleston is the largest supplier of accommodations tax to the state. Some of that tax money trickles down to our local areas. That's another thing I think the state should look at is where the accommodations taxes is spent. I think that could be used for finishing 526. I think it could be used for roads. I think it could be used for improving green space in Charleston. I think there's a lot of other things we can do with accommodations taxes. If the money's happening here, we should be able to maintain more of that revenue control here, yet that's not exactly the way it goes. So that's another interview.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked a lot about Charleston County. A lot of people don't know about their regulations. Can you talk to me more about that?
Sure. The county also passed rules last summer that does allow people 6% homes, non-owner occupied properties, if you will, depending on where you fall, either 72 days a year or half of the year. I don't exactly remember the math. The county's is a little more easy to understand. The process is easier to go through because the county wasn't so focused on the historic district. Obviously, it doesn't apply to the county. I'll tell you though, personally experiencing what my neighbor went through with the neighbors that were against it was eye-opening for me to see what people truly have to go through, not just from the process of going through the application. It took my neighbor approximately 9 months to get the permit. And I believe she was the first one in Charleston County to get it, which just happened 2 weeks ago. So we're very excited and pleased. And in this particular situation, we had an empty house in our neighborhood that sat empty for 3 years, was dilapidated. She went in and remodeled it, completely gutted it, turned it into an amazing piece of property, and it's right in front of our neighborhood when you come in. So it improves the value of the neighborhood because it's lovely and beautiful, and people that come in and stay, they love it. They love our neighborhood. They love the West Ashley. They love the diversity of Charleston. They're able to see the diversity of Charleston by staying out in a suburban area, if you will. So we're excited she was able to get it.
You talk about diversity.
Mm-hmm.
What is the quality of life now with this whole short-term rental fight?
What do you mean?
Quality of life, how do you define it now?
Quality of life, I guess you mean for the property owners?
Yes.
It's tough. I mean, it's tough for them to continue living the way that they would like to live. A lot of people that have short-term rentals, they do it, maybe he had a house and she had a house, they got married. He decided to move into her house and they decided to, maybe this is what was going to pay for their child's college. I mean, we're talking about, 4th and 5th generation Charlestonian, Rashonda Grant. She is a perfect example of, her home, even though she's on James Island, she's incorporated into the city. It's tough for her to get a permit. I'm not exactly sure why, but there's some hurdles she hasn't been able to overcome. So quality of life, she is on the verge of deciding whether or not she can keep her grandparents' home that she loves, she has an emotional ties to. So, it's every type of scenario you can imagine. It's difficult for people. It's really unnecessary.
If I were to walk into 75 Calhoun Street right now and apply for this permit or license, what's that process like?
So you have to have a drawing, you have to have a site plan, you have to, and you have to hire people to do these things. It's very expensive. In some cases, you have to try to make the historic registry, which is, they don't hand those out. So there's a lot of hurdles you have to go through. And there's 3 categories, and then you have to decide which category you fit in. So it's a great question. I have to have it in front of me to really understand it.
Denise Holtz, thank you so much, Denise, for your time. I really, really appreciate it.
Great to see you again.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Yes, yeah.